So we just got our first batch of results from Seattle's special election regarding a social housing initiative. At last check, with about 21% of the ballots counted, Initiative 135 is leading. You can see about 53% of the votes in favor. If it is passed, it would create a public development authority. That organization would develop, own, and maintain housing developments that are publicly funded. The city would provide funding for the first 18 months, and then the council will decide what to do after that. And this comes as a new report shows that rent prices in Seattle fell for the 5th month in a row in January. People are paying about 1% less than they were a year ago. This is a trend we're seeing nationwide. Rents falling in 67 of the country's largest cities. But the problem remains, rent is still too high for a lot of people to afford.
Yeah, the median rent in the city stands at $1,600, while the median salary sits at $73,000. That means people are paying more than a third of their monthly income on rent. So joining us now, Kraig Peck. He's a local landlord who supports rent stabilization. Kraig, good morning.
Good morning, Bill. Good morning, Brian. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. So, you know, when people think about landlords, they think they're in it for the money. I mean, we get it. You want to get a return on your investments, your property. So tell us why you and other landlords support rent stabilization.
Well, this affects everyone in Washington state. You know, rents in the Seattle area have gone up 17% in the last 2 years. Rent gouging hurts our schools, it hurts our neighborhoods, and it hurts our local businesses. Schools, for example, you know, when parents are hit with one astronomical rent increase after another, they have to pull their kids out of school and find another school for them. They have to move. And that affects not only their kids, but all the kids in the classroom. Rent stabilization means neighborhood stabilization. We all want to live in safe and friendly neighborhoods, and that generally means recognizing the people around us. And when people have to continually move, we lose that. And that affects, of course, some seniors who rely on neighbors to take them to the doctor or drive them to the grocery store. It affects young parents who maybe need a neighbor to watch their kids for a couple of hours. It affects our faith organizations who are, you know, who lose members because people have to move. And then the big picture is that rent gouging damages, it hurts our businesses. We all know that there's a massive labor shortage in Washington state, and it's not a coincidence that rents in Washington state are amongst the highest in the nation. Ordinary people can't really afford to live in the Seattle area anymore, essential workers. And that means that a lot of businesses have had to cut hours. You know, they can't find people. They have to cut hours. They're not able to expand, and so on. And then this is probably no surprise to many people. When renters get large rent increases, one after another, the 40% of Washingtonians that are renters have less money to spend. That means that our local hair salons, our gyms, grocery stores, childcare centers don't have that income coming in. And actually, they're squeezed because they have to pay their employees more to cover the ever increasing rents, but they can't necessarily pass on their expenses in price increases to their customers, because
Kraig,
40% of their customers have less money to spend because they're paying it on rents.
So, Kraig,
so that's why I'm concerned, and I think everyone should be concerned.
but you also say rent stabilization is different than rent control. Can you explain the difference?
Yes, I'm happy to. Rent stabilization doesn't freeze the rents. It allows landlords to determine the rent before a renter arrives, you know, when they initially rent out a house or an apartment. And it allows landlords to raise the rents when they leave. What rent stabilization does is it stabilizes the home, the apartment or the house of a renter. And so, for example, for me as a landlord, the bill under consideration in Olympia would allow me to set the rent at whatever rate I wanted to. But while the renter is renting one of my houses, I would be limited to raising the rent up to the cost of living with a limit of 7%. And you know, that works because the main expense of any property investor is the mortgage, and the mortgage is fixed. it's generally fixed for 15 or 30 years. So this is a very modest, flexible program that allows landlords to continue to make profits, but enables renters to remain in their homes and to stabilize our neighborhoods, our schools, and our businesses.
All right, Kraig Peck, local landlord in support of rent stabilization, will be following that legislation in Olympia. We appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. It is 8:10 right now. Let's get some details on the forecast with Brian.